welcome to another episode of the Metroid Story, the finale of the entire series for now. Last time we covered the creation and development of Metroid Fusion, Nintendo's attempt to drastically transform Samus into a different warrior, infected with a dangerous organism, and thrust into a mission at her weakest. Samus volunteered for an exploratory mission down to the surface of SR-388, and almost lost her life after being infected by the incredibly dangerous X Parasites, the natural prey of the Metroids. The X were capable of imitating living organisms and more. Samus awoke, changed from the Metroid vaccine used to save her, and fought her way through a station decimated by X. She regained her strength and confronted the X imitating her. In the end, this SA-X was destroyed fighting an Omega Metroid, and Samus used its power in combination with hers to destroy the monster and escape the facility before its destruction. Before we take off on Samus's most dangerous mission, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Into the AM. If you know me, you know I hate wearing regular adult clothing, and you'll never see me in a plaid button-up shirt unless someone made me wear it for a special occasion. And chances are I'm upset about it. Your clothing should say something about you, express your personality, that fun that's inside all of us. I like my clothing bright, colorful, creative. Since 2012, Into the AM has been nailing that look and feel with premium apparel covered in unique designs. The shirts are buttery soft and shrink resistant, and one of the most important factors to me are how thin and breathable they are. The shirts aren't made of that cheap, thick cotton that's found in so many stores. Here's a quick fashion show for some of Into the AM's latest selections. This is easily my favorite, Digital Space. It's got that retro look, and it actually resembles my channel's aesthetic quite a bit. A little space shuttle flying around, a retro sun, laser grid on the bottom, absolutely beautiful. Death Weaver with an octopus kraken-like beast holding a couple skulls for a very bright aquatic look. Sherbet Shores, a very 1980s-like mountain sunset. For a more futuristic vibe, Upload, featuring a cybernetic astronaut hooked to electronics. And Into the AM was also kind enough to send me a pair of their comfort shorts. I can't express enough the value of a comfortable pair of shorts. See, even the dog likes them. Whenever you're lounging around the house or using them for the gym, they feel great and stretchy without feeling loose or cheap. And it's also really convenient that they have a back pocket with a zipper, and an additional zipper on one of the side pockets. Right now, Into the AM is running some great deals, so don't miss out on them. There's a graphic tee 3-pack for $61.95, and you still get an additional 10% off if you use my discount code in the description. Not only do you get some cool merch and a discount by supporting Into the AM with the link below, you're also supporting this channel. So let me know in the comments which designs are your favorite. And now back to the Metroid Story, Chapter 12, The Final Metroid. Samus's most recent and final chronological mission, Metroid Dread, has a history with roots going all the way back to her original final mission, Fusion, in 2002. Dread was a game Nintendo wanted to make for a long time, but didn't quite know what this Dread should be. They just had that name. Its final identity took years to form. Metroid series producer Yoshio Sakamoto's first ideas for Dread began forming after the release of Metroid Fusion as a Nintendo DS sequel to Samus's final adventure. The word Dread was always an important design tenet with the project. He wanted the player to feel a sense of dread playing the game, building on the stealth mechanics introduced in Fusion, with the SA-X hunting Samus. Fear-based gameplay versus a full-blown horror experience. It still needed to retain that classic Metroid exploration style, however. As time passed, the Dread idea failed to satisfy his vision. The attempt to make a prototype of the game was made in 2005. In the same year, Metroid Dread was listed on an internal Nintendo document among upcoming Nintendo DS games. Inevitably, the gaming public was becoming aware that a new Metroid project was slowly coming together. It was no secret, and rumors swirled around upcoming release dates and the game's status, but years passed by and no official release announcement from Nintendo came. Then in 2007, Metroid Prime 3 Corruption further fueled speculation among fans. In a message appearing in the game, Samus can learn about a secret space pirate experiment. A message that reads, "Experiment status report update. Metroid Project Dread is nearing the final stages of completion." In the Japanese version, the message instead referred to a Dread-class turret. Behind the scenes, Nintendo still had no idea what Dread actually was going to be, and the game was nowhere near completion. By E3 2009, some progress was made. A playable prototype was shown exclusively to Nintendo and their software technology staff. Although this prototype wasn't shown to the public, it was described as having a similar art style to Fusion. Sakamoto was not impressed. Creating an uneasy, fear-filled atmosphere was deemed too difficult to achieve on the DS, so the game was put in the back burner until a better opportunity presented itself on a more advanced console. Everything was scrapped, and Nintendo decided that when and if they returned to Project Dread, they would start from scratch. In the meantime, they watched player reactions and comments closely as Other M, Federation Force, and Metroid Samus Returns released from 2010 to 2017. Although they performed admirably, Other M and Federation Force were seen by a large chunk of the existing Metroid fanbase as disappointing follow-ups to the Metroid games that came before them. But salvation for the series came with Samus Returns, the remake of Metroid 2 on the 3DS, developed by Mercury Steam. Samus Returns was essentially their audition for Dread. Nintendo was sold on it. After Mercury Steam demonstrated they can handle the Metroid series successfully, they decided to revive development on Project Dread. The game was being developed by Mercury Steam and Nintendo EPD, their Entertainment Planning and Development Division, the largest division within Nintendo. It was formed in 2015 after a company-wide restructure under new leadership. After years of secrecy, a lack of ideas, and the Metroid series struggling to regain its former glory, Nintendo finally and officially revealed Metroid Dread on June 15, 2021, in their E3 Nintendo Direct. The concept of an unstoppable enemy that Samus couldn't destroy, inspired by Fusion's SAX, took the shape of the Emmy in Dread. The Emmy were designed in conjunction with Mercury Steam, powerful robots hunting Samus that she couldn't destroy. According to Sakamoto, they far surpassed and improved on his original idea of a dreadful enemy. Metroid Dread quite literally breathed new life into the Metroid series, even before releasing. Fans were excited about the first original non-remake Metroid side-scroller since Fusion. After the trailer released, both GameStop and Amazon reported it was the highest pre-ordered game, and the sales of previous Metroid titles surged via the Nintendo Wii U shop. Metroid hype had returned. On October 8, 2021, Metroid Dread released, and Nintendo's expectations were blown away. While a few critics did have issues with some of those same exploration mechanics.
So he says, go back up in that room and shoot the ceiling. What? Why? There's no indication on the map, there's no indication visually that the ceiling needs to be shot. This is ridiculous. There is nothing in the visual. Crap, Bush League. What? Why?
Regardless, Metroid Dread smashed records. In the United States, it sold 854,000 copies within its first month alone. In Japan, almost 87,000 copies in its first week, debuting at number 1 on the sales charts. By May of 2022, the game had sold more than 2.9 million copies worldwide. It was official. Metroid Dread was the best-selling Metroid game of all time, surpassing the numbers previously set by Metroid Prime. But where did Samus's final chronological mission take her after the destruction of the Metroids, the X Parasites, and Space Pirates? What dangers were left? What dangers could have forced her back into action? As a quick reminder, this isn't a gameplay walkthrough, so all gameplay elements have been organized in order to tell a cohesive story. So some things are out of order gameplay-wise, it was done on purpose. With that, let's get started on the Metroid Story Chapter 12. The saga of the Metroid threat seemed to be over. The BSL research station housing Metroids that the Galactic Federation was experimenting with was annihilated, and the entire planet of SR-388, home of the X Parasites, was destroyed. A resurgence in widespread space pirate activity still hadn't been detected since the destruction of Zebes. It was a time of relative peace, a feeling that was quite unfamiliar to Samus. The Metroids and the Space Pirates were part of Samus's life for such a long time that their absence left a sort of void within her. When she left SR-388 before its massive explosion, Samus was flowing with power. She'd recovered from her death at the hands of the X Parasite infection, and the SAX gave her the strength to destroy the Omega Metroid on board, and her suit had already begun repairing. Contrary to what the Galactic Federation scientists previously believed, the organic components of her Chozo's suit were slowly shifting and reaching something similar to its original appearance, while retaining Samus's biological changes from the Metroid vaccine inside of her. But she had no purpose, nothing to channel her increase in strength towards, but soon she'd be forced to fend for her life once again. A threat that had been watching from the shadows for much of her life, watching her grow into a cunning warrior. With all of Samus's enemies gone and no distractions in place, it was nearing the perfect time to strike. One day, the Galactic Federation received an unexpected video transmission. The mysterious video showed an X Parasite in the wild. The video was current and verified by Federation analysts to be completely authentic. But the X were wiped out with their homeworld. No other planets were known to house them, unless they somehow escaped aboard a ship at some point. The source of the transmission was completely open. Whoever sent it wasn't trying to hide, and the signal was tracked to a planet designated by the Galactic Federation as ZDR. It was an unexplored world in a remote part of the galaxy, with a purple atmosphere presumed to be dangerous to human life. The Galactic Federation hired the Exelian Star Corporation to provide research robots to investigate the planet. If there truly were X on the planet, human lives couldn't be risked. The Exelian Corporation were masters at building machines that could survive the extreme conditions of deep space exoplanets. Their extraplanetary, multi-form mobile identifier units were the perfect tools. MEs were built using the strongest metals known in the universe. They could rotate their joints 360 degrees, they were equipped with hard claws that could dig into most surfaces, and they were equipped with DNA extracting tools. There was no planet the MEs couldn't make their way through. 7 units were deployed in total into the atmosphere of ZDR. Their landing on the planet was detected, but all communication was lost. Unknown to them, the MEs had encountered a life form on the surface that was waiting patiently for its visitors. It confronted an ME and deactivated it with little effort. And so Samus Aran was called in, the only human immune to X infection. Without hesitation, Samus accepted the job, and the Atom AI on board her ship warned her against it. They knew almost nothing of what was waiting on the surface. The risk outweighed the reward, but Samus was eager to take on another mission after such a quiet period. Perhaps too eager.
The bounty for this mission does not seem appropriate. The risk clearly outweighs the reward. Treat our lost assets with care, lady.
Entering the atmosphere in T-10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That elevator leads to the depths of an underground facility. Signal quality is likely to be low. Remote communication remains difficult. Try to connect to the facility's network when you reach the bottom. That way, get main in contact. Any objections, lady?
Samus awoke to find that her armor was stripped of many of its functions and sapped of energy. She was vulnerable. But why was she still alive? Why didn't her attacker finish her off? It was now painfully clear to Samus that the mission was a setup, and she rushed headfirst into the planet without assessing the threat it posed. The stranger that ambushed her knew where she'd be. He was waiting for her. And another truth she struggled to process, the attacker was Chozo. Bigger and stronger than the Chozo she knew, but between the armor and language he spoke, it was unmistakable. The Chozo records detailed in her power suit held information on a planet that bore a striking resemblance to the one she was on. The Galactic Federation knew it as ZDR, but its Chozo name was much older, Tarin Nalima, but it was nothing like the world built on Zebes. Whoever these Chozo were somehow different. The ruins supported the same idea that these Chozo also burrowed deep into the planet, spreading their civilization. The Thoa tribe ruins on Zebes were very cultural, filled with artistic and spiritual expression. The ones on ZDR felt cold and emotionless, much more mechanical in nature, and the Chozo she knew were kind and caring, welcoming of strangers. Her attacker seemed ruthless. Samus needed answers, and she had her mission parameters to fulfill. She needed to find out what happened to the Emmys and confirm whether any X lived on the planet. But how was her Chozo attacker related to the situation? Samus struggled to communicate with the Atom AI on board her ship. She was in the region known as Arteria, too deep and had too much interference to send communications to the surface. Her only hope was to connect with the facility's network to form a link with her ship's systems.
I have determined that you are somewhere within the depths of ZDR. Your top priority should be to return to your ship on the surface. This situation is precarious. Trust your instincts as you navigate upward.
Arteria was also very dark, with no natural light from the surface reaching down. The terrain was rocky and sandy, while being humid enough for vast sources of water, and the Chozo had engineered the area to support a working civilization. As she expected, the Chozo built a planet-wide digital infrastructure that could be used for communication across vast distances, and she used the network to contact Adam. Adam confirmed what Samus already knew. Her attacker was Chozo and was responsible for her armor being depowered so severely she was once again vulnerable to extreme temperatures thanks to her Metroid DNA. Luckily, the region of Arteria was kept warm by Chozo-built pumps that would bring in lava from other regions of the planet. Without such mechanical wonders, Arteria would be completely frozen due to its deep location and lack of heat sources. After traveling through one of its many air ducts and tunnels, Samus discovered one of the Emmys, designated Unit 01P. With her current equipment, Samus didn't stand a chance against the machine. It was out of control and targeting her. Although it was severely damaged with its faceplate and multiple arms missing from its previous encounter with the Chozo, it was still quite deadly. But then she felt a strange sensation. In a nearby room, she discovered an Aurora-like unit, much like Mother Brain and the ones that the Federation used on board their ships. The Metroid DNA inside of her was reacting to the biological energy remaining intact inside. And much like a Metroid draining the life from a living victim, Samus was able to drain the energy from the unit. It resulted in a temporary and colossal increase of energy from her arm cannon, and she turned her new now Omega cannon against the 01P ME unit. The blast from the Omega cannon left her drained again, and her power being returned to normal. Whatever happened to the Emmy units wasn't good. They were built as research machines, and it seemed that they now hunted her. 6 more remained unaccounted for, and Samus was determined to find every single one. The second unit she encountered, ME-02SM, was even deadlier. Unlike 01P, this one was undamaged, with all of its impenetrable armor intact. The Emmys were reprogrammed to target Samus, and she knew better than to put her life at risk. It was pointless to attack an unstoppable enemy when she was so weakened. Adam suggested that she treat all Emmy as if they were threats. Until a better solution were found, Samus was to avoid them at all costs. Adam also searched through the Federation database and couldn't find any record of the Chozo attacker, but did discover records of a warrior tribe. It was possible this was a member of such a tribe. Past the magma supply system, Samus encountered one of the Aurora units still functioning. Its security system attacked Samus, but she needed to absorb that energy within if she hoped to stand a chance against ME-02SM. Once 02SM was destroyed, Samus' spider magnet ability was reactivated. The Chozo warrior must have absorbed her suit's growing functions and dispersed them into the Emmys. Since they could absorb DNA, the organic compounds that powered her suit allowed them to retain her powers. But why would he spread her powers throughout the Emmys? Why was he testing her? And just beyond the cavernous pits of Arteria, Samus came across one of ZDR's predators, native to the jungle regions of the planet, an organism known as Corpius. It was a dangerous hunter, but so was Samus. After destroying Corpius, Samus arrived in the Cataris region of ZDR, the region responsible for keeping the rest of the planet's structure warm and stabilized. At some point, the Chozo warrior tribe used the facilities in Cataris to forge their battle armors, and many of their armor pieces remained scattered and unfinished. If there truly was a warrior tribe of Chozo inhabiting ZDR at some point, where were they? From what Samus had seen, no intelligent life existed on the planet, aside from the natural wildlife she'd already seen. She traveled through the jets of hot fire and machinery that were still running, a facility still operating that no longer had masters to serve. And Adam confirmed that ZDR was completely powered by the transfer of thermal energy. Without the mechanisms in place, the entire planet would be inhospitable for most life, frozen wasteland. The extreme heat would be damaging to Samus' suit due to the lack of Revaria function, but thankfully the structure within kept her separated from the searing fires of Cataris. Samus began following a signal with an energy signature similar to her morph ball function, and discovered the source. another Emmy, Unit 03MB, confirming that the Chozo had in fact spread her abilities throughout all the different Emmy units. If Samus hoped to stand a chance in another encounter with the Chozo, she would need all of her abilities back, but even then it may not be enough. Yet another central unit was nearby holding the power she needed to get through the Emmy's armor, and after destroying it, she set out to reclaim her Morph Ball. Emmy-03MB was destroyed. With her Morph Ball back in place, she can now travel deeper into Cataris, since much of the region was made of small passageways and trails leading to trams, connected to other parts of ZDR. If the Chozo wanted to test her abilities, she'd play his game for now, until she determined what he was after. Deep in the lava pits of Cataris, Samus could hear a creature in the distance roaring. It sounded familiar and angry, but the creature the sound reminded her of couldn't possibly be on ZDR. To get to its chamber, she needed to regain her Varia suit function. She detected it nearby but had to redirect the thermal fuel from the area and risk being cooked alive. With the Varia suit activated, she traveled into the deep chambers of Cataris and found the source of the roar. Her intuition was right. The beast it was coming from was quite familiar to her. It was the space pirate general Kraid. Kraid seemed shocked to see Samus also and immediately became enraged. It was miraculous that he had survived Zebes. Last time Samus saw him, she blasted him back into his cavern in the Brinstar region of the planet. She knew he was still alive, but assumed he perished when the entire planet exploded, like Ridley. Unknown to her, the Chozo warrior was monitoring her mission on Zebes. Once Kraid was defeated, he immediately ordered his warriors to bring Kraid back to the surface and capture him. Kraid was surrounded by Chozo and forced off-world, and then imprisoned on ZDR against his will. Once Samus arrived, Kraid would be used as a weapon against her. He was even still wearing the bonds that held him in place on Cataris. Kraid was defeated, but it was possible he was still alive. His tough hide and space pirate genetic manipulation made him resilient, but he was hurt and out of the way for now, and Samus hoped it was the last time she'd ever see him. Kraid was stranded on ZDR, and the space pirate command structure was truly broken. He should no longer pose a threat. The Chozo also built portal technology into the infrastructure of ZDR. Samus activated one and was transported to the region of Dairon. It was originally a naturally aquatic environment until the Chozo re-engineered it into a biological research lab where the Chozo would work on their own biological experiments. Similar experiments that eventually developed the Metroids. But the area was suffering from a blackout and another ME unit, 04SB, had found its way here. 04SB was incredibly fast and equipped with Samus' speed booster. In her current state, she had no hopes of matching its speed and could only attempt to escape its deadly grasp. Adam noted that Samus' abilities were quickly returning, and she was developing new ones as she destroyed the enemies in her way, but she still couldn't hope to confront the Chozo warrior. All she could do was survive until she could find a way to turn the power back on. Samus was able to successfully turn on the nearby power generator, and doing so activated Dairon's mechanical security systems, which immediately targeted her. Turning the power on also granted her access to the central unit managing the area. Equipped with the vast firepower it offered, Samus confronted ME Unit 04SB. Its increased speed made it a challenge, but this time, she wouldn't have to run. She'd regained the speed booster that was rightfully hers. Only 3 of the 7 ME units remained, and the power was back on throughout Dairon and its connected facilities. Samus took the transport to the stormy and very wet Berenia region. As an extension of Dairon, Berenia was also engineered into a research station, but it specifically studied marine life. The laboratories were built around one of the planet's oceans, and its lower regions were completely flooded with the vast seawater due to lack of maintenance. Nature was taking over again, further deepening the mystery of where all the Chozo were, assuming any of the warrior tribe remained alive. Thanks to her Varia suit, Samus could explore the deep pressure found in the depths of Berenia, pressure that would crush a normal human. Although her maneuverability was still compromised, something that wouldn't be an issue if her gravity suit wasn't stripped away from her. Inside Berenia, she also discovered Chozo statues equipped with new technology that adapted to her suit, technology that would allow her to move more efficiently through the environment. It was almost as if the warrior Chozo was wanting her to become stronger. The space pirates would have been sending all their forces to stop her. Berenia was simply too quiet. The threats found there were mostly passive, animals simply defending their territory or searching for food. For now, there was nowhere to move but forward into Ferenia, an area quite different than the factories and research centers she'd been through on ZDR. Ferenia was both ancient and beautiful, clearly a region meant to be a sanctuary for the Chozo, a home that chronicled their history. The Chozo were a species that were a mystery to most of the galaxy, but they were also careful record keepers that spread much of their history verbally. They told stories from generation to generation, but they also recorded even their recent history via wall carvings and symbolism that could withstand the passage of time. Ferenia was filled with images depicting what was unmistakably a warrior tribe of Chozo, with a large one being depicted as the leader. It was her attacker, and there were also images of this tribe fighting the Zebezian space pirates on Zebes. Even Mother Brain was present on the historical depiction. As suspected, they were definitely on planet Zebes while Samus was attacking the space pirate base. She was getting closer to the truth of her journey to ZDR.
Man henki maradis. Pisalakutar ili thoja hasana. Ili Chozo man faragai atasen maburis ashkar behek.
Samus finally had a name to her attacker, Ravenbeak of the Mawkin tribe. The stranger in front of her was another Chozo named Quiet Robe, who was quite different than Ravenbeak. He revealed everything. Ravenbeak rose through the ranks of the Mawkin tribe due to his superior physical prowess and fierce intelligence. Contrary to the peaceful Thoa tribe, who were focused on exploration and getting along with other species in the galaxy, the Mawkin tribe was still dedicated to the old ways of the Chozo, power through strength, and they were no strangers to waging war. Ravenbeak's history had ties with the remnants of the Thoa tribe on SR-388. When the Chozo lost control of the Metroids on the planet, they successfully sealed the Metroids deep inside. The only reason they succeeded, however, was because they requested the help of the Mawkin tribe. The Mawkin arrived under the command of Ravenbeak and pushed the Metroids back. The Thoa tribe were ever grateful for the arrival of the Mawkin. But then their plans for the future inevitably diverged. The Thoa determined the Metroids and X Parasites on the planet were too dangerous, and their plan was to detonate the entire planet. Ravenbeak had a different idea. He believed Metroids were the perfect weapons and needed to be used. He was bent on galactic conquest and establishing Chozo dominance over all others. In response, he slaughtered the Mawkin tribe where they stood. He left one survivor, Quiet Robe. He needed a member of the Thoa tribe since they had an innate ability to influence and control Metroids. Quiet Robe was taken to the Mawkin tribe homeworld of ZDR and forced under the threat of execution to serve Ravenbeak. He was ordered to work on biological experiments and prepare a way for the Mawkin to retrieve the Metroids on SR-388, but Ravenbeak's plans would fail before they even began. One of his Chozo warriors was exposed to an X Parasite on SR-388 and killed. The X Parasite took his place and secretly traveled with the rest of the Mawkin tribe back to ZDR. Any dissent in his ranks, any disagreement with his vision of the Chozo's future, was punished brutally. The traitors were executed in the Berenia region, bound and dropped in the aquatic tanks, fed to the creatures below with no mercy. Ravenbeak monitored any possible threats, including Samus, since her history was so closely tied with the Metroids. After taking Kraid off of Zebes before the planet's destruction, Ravenbeak realized something was wrong with the many troops in his army. By then, the X had spread one by one until his army was decimated. His numbers were filled with X posing as Chozo warriors, and Samus remembered how terrifying an X mimicking a life form could be. The SAXs replicated her perfectly on the BSL station. It was indistinguishable from Samus. Ravenbeak was able to successfully escape with his own life and sealed the infected in the region of Elune. With the distraction of the X Parasites out of the way, he restarted his plans to capture the Metroids of SR-388 again, but his plans were destroyed. While he was dealing with the threat of X, Samus had wiped out the Metroids and the entire planet of SR-388, and the entire planet of SR-388 had exploded. But he learned of the Metroid vaccine that was used to save Samus's life. Her body now contained the only known Metroid DNA that existed in the galaxy still. Ravenbeak was the one that sent the video of the X Parasite to the Galactic Federation in an attempt to lure Samus. With the ME units being sent first, he saw an opportunity. He took down Unit 01P and forced Quiet Robe to study it and used the knowledge gained to reprogram all the ME units. Why Ravenbeak hid Samus's abilities inside of them was still a mystery, but his ultimate goal was to use their DNA extraction tools to draw the Metroid DNA from Samus's body. In Samus's eyes, her mission couldn't be any clearer. To her, Ravenbeak was no different than a space pirate, a galactic threat that had to be put down. Quiet Robe unlocked the way forward and paid the price for his betrayal.
Kino ula turuta. Ana maril sanur pura. Ay marhel kalom.
Ata estor daburis urahama. Ana habar kisadi ilisala. Ana manbala meyata tamus.
Like the rest of his tribe on SR-388, Quiet Robe was slain. After the X infection of his troops, Ravenbeak recognized that he couldn't succeed without an army and used ZDR's factories to produce robot Chozo warriors, programmed to heed his commands. There was no time to waste. The longer Ravenbeak remained alive, the higher chance Samus had of failing. If he found her again, he would surely best her in combat. For now, she was safe from the remaining enemy units. Adam confirmed that Quiet Robe was able to disable them before his death. To get to Ravenbeak, Samus had to travel to Berenia again, and encountered another one of the Marine Research Facility's native wildlife, the Drogiga, a plant-like organism that was enhanced by the Mawkin tribe's bio-experiments. After the Drogiga's downfall, Samus traveled to the jungle-like region of ZDR, Gavaran. It was an area where the Mawkin tribe could embrace the old ways. They kept much of the terrain natural, engineering an environment to stay warm and jungle-like, with artificial rainfall in an effort for life to flourish. Gavaran was one of the regions closest to the surface, so sunlight was able to still reach down below and feed the plant life growing there. And the Chozo would also use it as hunting grounds. Even a full-grown Corpius, the same animal that Samus bested in Arteria, was no match for a group of skilled Chozo hunters. But with the natural Chozo loyal to Ravenbeak now gone, Area was crawling with more of his robot soldiers, and Samus was target number 1. From Gavaran, Samus took the transport to the dangerous region of Elune. Samus was getting close to the seat of Ravenbeak's power, and he was watching. Ravenbeak's security system scanned Samus, and she prepared for a battle, but they allowed her access forward immediately. The entire scenario felt like a trap, but Samus had no choice but to move forward and discover what was in store for her. The X Parasites were back, the first that Samus had seen on ZDR, and this was the region Ravenbeak had used to trap them. Thanks to her previous mission, Samus was immune to infection, and absorbing them just fed the Metroid DNA in her, making her stronger. However, she wasn't immune to damage, and still had to be careful. To survive, she'd have to face more of the soldiers that took over Ravenbeak's army, the X Parasite Chozo. Ravenbeak unleashed the X Parasites from their prison in Elune. They were quickly spreading across the planet and infecting all life forms they came across. One of them copied Quiet Robe after finding his body, and it reactivated the Emmy units. If Metroids were the natural predators of X, Samus with her Metroid DNA had to be destroyed. Samus retreated back to Gavaran in order to plan her next steps, and learned that the Emmy were reactivated when she encountered Emmy Unit 051M, a thinner model that could squeeze through tight spaces, and it had the ability to free Samus. If it caught her, she'd be helpless to defend herself. Her only hope was to drain the energy from the local central unit as before. Afterwards, Unit 051M's freezing abilities wouldn't save it from destruction. The Emmy's cybernetic body contained Samus's ice missile technology. According to Samus's records, only 2 more Emmy remained on ZDR. Emmy Unit 06WB that Quiet Robe disabled when it attacked Samus was stalking the area in Ferenia. But without the power of the Omega Cannon, the Emmy would remain invincible. As Samus escaped its grasp, she found another X posing as a native life form, the SQ. It was originally a Quetzoa, an insect native to Gavaran, but the X infection created drastic mutations that changed its natural state and made it incredibly aggressive towards Samus. Adam notified Samus that something was wrong with the planet. Since the X were released, the temperature of the entire world was dropping quickly. Most of the organisms that populated the planet were already converted into X Parasite copies that were all targeting Samus. She needed to find her gravity suit function for added protection against the incoming extreme temperatures and the added threats the X Parasites posed. Something must have affected the stability of the planet's temperature control systems. It was possible that the thermal transfer system was malfunctioning, but why now? It had been working fine the entire time Samus was there. Once she re-entered Cataris, she learned why the lava wasn't moving. A powerful X was blocking the transfer system, causing it to overheat and cease functioning. The situation was similar to the same one that Samus faced on the BSL station. The X Parasites determined that she was a threat and began sabotaging the ship to take themselves out along with Samus. Even if one X survived, that would be enough for their species to reproduce quickly. It seemed that this time they were trying to affect the entire planet's systems. This X was mimicking experiment Z57, one of the many bio-experiments that Quiet Robe was forced to work on. He grew it in his lab using genetic material from various creatures such as Corpius and Kraid, but it was deemed a failure and its corpse was left for examination. When the X spread, they copied the body and exaggerated its features to colossal levels. If Samus didn't stop it soon, it would cause catastrophic damage. lava transfer system was functioning again, but nowhere near as efficiently, and possibly not for very long. For now, parts of the planet were warming up again slowly, but Samus feared that the Z-57 could have accomplished its goal. Chozo infrastructure was amazingly advanced, but none of these systems had been maintained for some time, due to the lack of Chozo present. Samus would have to work quickly and regain the remainder of her suit's missing abilities, one being held by the X Golzuna in Gavaran that was multiple life forms meshed together, and Samus was able to track down the power necessary to stop Enemy Unit 06WB, the same one that attacked her just before she went Quiet Rope. Only one enemy remained. The body of 06WB granted Samus the reactivation of her Wave Beam, one of her deadliest weapons. She was becoming a formidable opponent for Ravenbeak now, armed with many new abilities and the one she'd worked so hard to gain over the years as Hunter. But something was happening inside her that she couldn't anticipate, something Ravenbeak fully expected and was pleased to see. Samus was getting strong. Samus was getting too strong. The X Parasites she'd absorbed, the suit function she'd regained, it was all feeding the Metroid DNA in her. And the Metroid DNA was growing stronger. Like a Metroid, Samus began feeling the urge to absorb energy, an almost uncontrollable feeling she'd never experienced. Again, Samus's new instinct to absorb energy kicked in, and unlike Metroid, she didn't just crave biological energy. Absorbing the energy from the final Emmy unit, 07PB, showed her that she could absorb electrical energy also. But this ability wasn't something she could easily control. The urge had left her as quickly as it began. And Samus found herself in Hanubia, a dark and rainy region on the surface of the planet, near the location where Samus landed her ship. It housed large military facilities where the Chozo starships were docked, and where much of their army was stationed before they'd been infected. If Ravenbeak was anywhere on the planet, he'd be waiting here. Adam suggested destroying the planet, but that was an issue that would possibly take care of itself in time, with the damage done to Cataris. Adam also began scanning for Ravenbeak's location, and detected a fortress high in the sky above Hanubia. The access point was a lift connecting Hanubia to Ravenbeak's fortress, known as Idarash. It was time for the final confrontation, and for Ravenbeak to reveal himself to Samus. He'd been with her throughout the entire mission.
Uploading data.
It appears your Metroid DNA has caused you to become a Metroid. Ordinarily, this would have happened immediately after the DNA transplant. Since then, your metamorphosis has accelerated. It can no longer be controlled. You are now a Metroid, Samus Aran. Your very existence poses a grave threat to the galaxy. You have followed my instructions faithfully so far. Continue to do so. It's that simple. I consider your performance here on ZDR highly satisfactory, as I hoped. It has even awakened your Metroid powers. I was right to let you live during our first encounter. That one glimpse you showed told me everything. Submit and offer up your power. My plan is the only way to bring order to the galaxy. Fulfill your destiny, Samus. This is an order. Disobedience will not be tolerated.
Samus was never talking to the Atom AI. It was still on the ship waiting for Samus to reestablish communication. Ravenbeak was the cause of the interference to begin with, and ever since she took that first elevator down into Arteria, he was posing as Atom the entire time. Ravenbeak was leading Samus every step of the way in order for her to become as strong as she possibly could, the ultimate hunter that the Chozo knew she could be. He needed the Metroid DNA inside of her body to fully awaken before he could take it for himself. It was time for Samus to give herself over to him or die. Ravenbeak also revealed his connection to her origins. Samus's fierce warrior spirit was partially due to the DNA that Ravenbeak himself contributed to her being. When the Chozo merged her DNA with Chozo DNA, he agreed to provide a sample to what would become the daughter of the Chozo race, the perfect warrior. During the battle, Ravenbeak became airborne. Samus was shocked to see that he had wings. As far as she knew, according to Chozo history, they lost their wings generations ago, after they left their warrior ways behind. She'd never seen a Chozo with wings. Nature dictated that they no longer needed them, but the Mawkin tribe never adapted the new ways, and remained what they sought to be, pure Chozo. The battle with Ravenbeak was fierce, and he was closer than ever to attaining his goal. What he didn't count on was Samus's perfected skills. She wouldn't just sit by and let him take her DNA, but Ravenbeak no longer wanted her DNA. Samus Aran had become the greater prize. Instead, he would destroy her, then clone an army of Metroid-powered Samuses of his own. Samus herself was the final Metroid. In the intensity of the battle, Samus's Metroid DNA reached the peak of its power, resulting in a powerful transformation of her suit. Ravenbeak's fortress of Itarash was no more, and he was on the surface with her, broken and beaten. Her DNA was mostly consumed by Metroid DNA that now interacted with her suit. This new Metroid suit gave her incredible, limitless energy to dispense via her arm cannon. And Razorbeak suffered a horrific transformation of his own. An X that wandered into Cataris killed and copied Kraid. Now the last space pirate was merged with Ravenbeak into a grotesque new form. Ravenbeak was dead, and so was the X that created the fusion of monsters. Like Samus predicted before, the experiment Z57X had destabilized the planet's systems. In just a couple of minutes, the entire planet would explode with Samus on it. She rushed to return to her ship, but failed to realize that her new Metroid suit was a result of her Metroid powers breaking through their limits. They were out of control, and any source of energy nearby would be compromised, including her ship.
So, you drain the ship of its energy.
The X mimicking Quiet Robe saved Samus's life. Some of his own personality was retained within it, and since the Thela tribe had the ability to control Metroids, the merger of the X and her Metroid suit resulted in her Metroid DNA stabilizing. Her mission was accomplished, and the galaxy was safe from Ravenbeak forever, ending the Metroid story for now. No matter what dangers the galaxy may face in the future, Samus Aran will be ready to answer the call.